So the Austin City Council just changed the density rules, right? So in order to build a property on a house on a property, the minimum was 5,700 square feet. Well, they had changed it so you could put 3 homes on a lot, and now they've actually reduced it to the minimum lot size is 1,800 square foot. So the idea is that they'll be able to create more homes, and you can actually build higher. That's going to reduce prices, so there'll be more affordable homes. So I'm just getting people's take. Do you think it's actually going to drive more affordability?
Dig into the details, devil's in the details.
Right.
Like, what does affordable housing even mean?
That was one of my questions.
That's a joke.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Okay.
I mean, the home is the home empowerment for middle income, and I think it actually will accomplish that goal. The big question would be is if you're to build a home that sells for, say, $400 per square foot, but now you're putting 3 homes on the lot instead of 1 or 2, what does that do to the value of the home?
I don't know. I feel like life nowadays is about like a new thing. So
Yeah.
maybe that gets cheaper, but then the cost of living gets higher,
yeah.
and then things get higher. More people, more problems.
Yeah, more people, more problems. I love it. Should Austin, Texas go more dense? That is the big question. Interestingly enough, on my socials, I've posted different videos about the density things happening in Austin, and people seem to think that Austin needs to be more dense. So in the comment section, before I go over the new changes that are happening, I want you to drop, do you think that Austin should go more dense? Do we need homes closer together and taller? On May 16th, a new ordinance was passed that allowed developers to develop all the way down to a 1,800 square foot lot, right? So that would be the minimum size. So let's go through this in the video today. We're gonna talk about what Austin is trying to do, what some of the infrastructure issues Austin's running into. We're gonna try to interview some people and get their thoughts on should Austin be going more dense, and do these changes help? And then I'm gonna interview somebody on the channel that works with developers. So we're gonna go into what developers are actually facing and if this actually helps. So let's take a look at this. So let's get some idea of what this is. So with the passing of Home Phase 2, home builders will be able to build on lots as small as 1,800 square feet, down dramatically from the previous minimum of 5,750 square feet. The amended code also affects minimum lot widths. Homes on interior lots with single driveways now have a minimum lot width of 30 feet. Homes on corner lots that share a driveway with other units that do not have a driveway or that have alley access now have minimum of 20 feet width. Funny enough, when this was introduced, it was introduced as a 2,000 square foot minimum, and the new mayor actually put in that it should be 1,800 square feet. So what does this actually do? Well, if you look at some of the developments right now, a lot of the issues developers face is the red tape in building properties. What they're trying to do is allow some affordability by building more homes on smaller lots. Let's break down to what some of the people who are for this say. Supporters of the changes who spoke May 16th public hearing said that they would encourage development of denser, more affordable housing. But some opponents worried that without explicit affordability components, the changes would lead to displacement of Austinites already struggling amid city cost of living. Other people that were supportive of this was actually the Austin Board of Realtors. They were actually said that this was one step closer to getting more affordability. I don't know about that. We're actually gonna bring on Jeff here in a minute and get Jeff's take. But what do you think? Do you think it's better for Austin to go super dense? Now, there's some other changes that we need to talk about as well. Here's what they are. A change to capability standards will allow developers to build tall structures much closer to single-family housing. Capability is a regulation that restricts a building's height based on proximity to property zone for single-family residences. Current capability standards have height restrictions up to 540 feet from a single-family properties, while the new standards drastically reduce that to 75 feet. So imagine you have a single-family home and 75 feet away, they build a tall building looking into your lot. So that's some of the changes. Now, what this is mainly going to affect is homes that are near where the rail line goes in. Here's what they're trying to do with the rail. They've actually put together an equitable transit oriented development. And here's basically what it says. The last major ordinance change created a development overlay surrounding Austin planned light rail. The equitable transit orientation development overlay alters land use rules within half a mile of the line's planned stations. A density bonus increasing maximum building height of up to 120 feet may be applied for an exchange for setting aside a percentage of units as affordable and paying a fee instead. For ownership developments, 12% of the total units must be affordable for households earning less than 80% median family income or below. For rental developments, 15% of total units must be affordable to housings earned 60% MFI, or 12% of total units must be affordable for housing earned 50% MFI. The new capability standards allow 40-foot tall buildings to be built 25 feet to 50 feet away from single family property, and 60-foot tall buildings to be built 50 feet to 75 feet away. At more than 75 feet away from single family homes, only zone standard height restrictions now apply. So they're basically trying to get this to get more affordability around the rail line, so maybe more people can ride the rail line. So you tell me, is this gonna help with traffic getting more dense? Are more people gonna get on the rail? And what do you think? So we're gonna be building more densely. You tell me what you think in the comment section. I'm gonna get to what some of you have to say. So the whole thing with the density is that it's what they're trying to do is take lots so you could build more lots, right? So the idea is that you would be able to get more affordable.
Yeah, but who's the one building? You have to basically, yeah, exactly. You had and those are the people who are like coming in. They're probably not from here. It's probably multinational corporation, large construction company, right?
Yeah.
You think they're going to be looking out for the musicians and artists, or you think they're looking at numbers on a spreadsheet?
Well, I think you'll get a little bit of both for sure.
They only will look at what's mandated.
Right.
If you mandate a certain number of affordable income units,
right?
Sure.
Right, and so some of the changes they had, you had a minimum of like 15% or 18% of the units had to be affordable.
But then you dig into the details. The devil's in the details.
Right.
Like, what does affordable housing even mean?
That was one of my questions.
That's a joke.
Yeah,
it's a joke.
Yeah. Well, that's something I talked about. You made the point. What is affordability, or nobody has defined what affordability is. The problem is you can say something's affordable or not affordable, but when it's taxed at such a high rate, it becomes harder for people to actually be able to buy a home, right? If the taxes on a home are so high, now your DTI is higher because the tax is so high.
An additional $1,000 a month in your property tax.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah. What do you want to see happen?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I want people's homes to not drop in value because I think it's important that people have home ownership. I don't like that when we talk about affordability, or the city council talks about affordability, they talk about affordability as being rent, not people with the ability to purchase a home. I think if you look over the last 30 years, or over a 30-year time frame, the people who generate more wealth are the people that are able to buy homes. I want people to be able to buy more affordable houses. All right, this is Jeff. We work on a lot of projects together. In fact, we do a lot together. And so usually when somebody comes to me about development deals, I usually put them Jeff's way. So Jeff, you work with a lot of developers. Talk to us about pre-changes with the 3.1 and then the Home 2 now, and then what developers are going to be facing going forward.
Okay, so here we're at a property in the Bolden neighborhood. So in a nutshell, prior to the home initiatives, most residential lot zone SF3 had the ability to build a single family home, a duplex, or what they call an A and a B unit. There's more technicalities to it than just that, but these were always subject to the deed restrictions of a given neighborhood. Home 1, the biggest thing that was unlocked was the ability to have 3 residences per property. So that's new, as well as the removal of restrictions for the second or the back unit of being a maximum of 1,100 square feet. Now with Home Initiative Part 2, they've allowed for the minimum lot size to be 1,800 square feet. In theory, this is great, creating 1,800 square foot lots, but the practicality is a lot of my clients right now are actually buying projects where the people have abandoned the subdivision process because it just simply takes too long and it costs too much money. So the Home 1 is going to allow people to build more units, create more density, and I think that's going to meet the goals of the city. Home 2 is going to have challenges unless subdivision approvals can be expedited and done at an affordable rate.
That's my biggest problem with any of this, right, is that the city of Austin always has had such a hard time keeping up with the demand of development. So there's so much red tape beyond that. So we were talking earlier about a project that they wanted $80,000 for just to hold on. The city wanted to hold on to $80,000 for them to then go and put an $80,000, what was it, a retention pond, right?
Correct.
And so these are some of the red tape. So that project's got $80,000 that they can't inject into the project because they have to spend that 80 plus another 80 building the pond or the retention pond, which we need retention. So building more densely, the time for these developers to actually get the stuff they want is still going to take a long time. So that's not going to change. And all of that pricing that gets packed into that just goes on to the consumer. I mean, we showed a project a couple weeks ago that was completely distressed. In fact, the developer told me they are coming back to the development, but maybe they won't. So do you think, like, how does this going to actually lighten up for the developers? Is there going to be some change on the back end where we actually see the city catch up to and help with some of these developments, or is the red tape just going to get worse?
Well, I hope so, right? So the city is going to have to be able to make the process work faster, and it needs to be expedited in order for it to make sense. So if you had a property, let's say we use 1800 as an example. If you had a lot that was 6,000 square feet, right now there would be no reason to subdivide that lot because you can already build 3 homes. Now, if you had an 8,000 square foot lot, the math equation would be, would it be better to build 3 homes, maybe a little bit extra square feet, or have more yard inside that property and sell it for a higher amount? Or would it make sense to do a subdivision and have 2 lots and build 4 homes or 5 homes? That becomes the question, because if it's going to cost $50,000 to $100,000 to do that subdivision and it's going to take a year, no developer is going to do that process because financially it's not going to make sense for them.
Yeah, I think that's the tough part, is that part of the bill or part of this change is to help with affordability. Yet developers are still facing an uphill battle in Austin when it comes to just getting a development online. So the reality is it going to actually push more affordability?
Well, I mean, the big question would be is if you're to build a home that sells for, say, 400 per square foot, but now you're putting 3 homes on the lot instead of 1 or 2, what does that do to the value of the home? Because if people aren't willing to pay it, the developer could lose money. So we're creating a hypothesis of what the values will be when you're selling a product that doesn't exist in the market yet. And that's the real gamble. I think the pioneers that go out first are probably going to benefit the most, but it really comes down, from my perspective, is doing really good lot analysis to look for the things that the city is going to make you do or going to require as you build. So we mentioned the retention ponds. That's important because when it rains, we can't have water going off the property and damaging others. So that's a real concern. But why put down a deposit and then have to spend the money? Why not just let the developer do the work and then approve it when they're done?
Yeah.
You know, we have the parkland dedication fees that are also a fee that are added. Well, which park is that? Which parks are those fees actually going to? Because I think that's a question a lot of developers have is, I don't mind paying the fees, but I'd really like it to benefit the community that I'm building in.
I guess from an outside perspective, what I look at is I see it more not as necessarily a money grab for developers. I just see it more of a money grab for the city of Austin.
It could be. I mean, they need to have the staff and they need to pay the staff. But from what I'm hearing, because I'm doing some developments outside the city of Austin as well, is that this is one of the most expensive cities to develop in.
Right.
It's got one of the most cumbersome processes to develop in, but there's such a high demand. It's understandable that it's complicated. The developers in the city, and I know that the Austin Infill Coalition is in great contact with the city trying to make things better, but it's definitely not perfect for anyone.
Well, I mean, like prime example, look at Elon and Tesla. They're right on the ETJ, and with the new laws, they can actually get themselves outside of Austin, and now they can have less restrictions on what they're actually building out there.
Right. You know, one thing I think is really interesting, like right now we're in the middle of some negotiations to acquire some land from longtime residents of Austin, and I know that when there's this topic comes up at City Council, most of the people that speak are opposed to this initiative. Is in many cases, like for an example, we're looking at a property and the trees are preventing that seller from being able to sell to gain the value that they would like to have so they can transition to the next part of their life. And from a developer perspective, it could take months or even years to find out if they could even build what they needed to build. And so by having this red tape, it actually makes it difficult for the citizens that are looking to retire and move on with their lives to capitalize on the value of their properties.
Yeah, because if that tree isn't on there, the value of that land could be higher. If that tree is on there, what you can build on there is actually going to make it harder. Now look, you can look at it from two different ways. Like, putting that tree on there, is it keeping Austin beautiful and keeping the aesthetic of Austin? Like, what's the conflict there, right? Like, is it more important to build densely because this new bill is pushing density, or not new bill, but this new law change is density, or do we keep Austin beautiful? They seem at odds.
Well, they're definitely at odds, and I think it's healthy friction, and it's an important friction, but the process needs to be faster, and it needs to be less expensive, and it needs to have less risk on the developer. That may be an uncommon perspective, but if it's easier for the developer, that means they can pay the residents more for that land, which should accomplish multiple goals for the community. Higher density, allowing people to be rewarded for the property that they own, and I think that becomes a win for the community.
So we've gone through a lot in this video. What do you think? Is this overall good or bad for the Austin area? You tell me in the comment section. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Cutting.